The Speaker takes a hit. A key House Republican comes out against Newt Gingrich on the eve of his bid to be re-elected Speaker of the House. If the shoe fits, dozens of new photographs appear to show O.J. Simpson in the shoes he says he never wore. And the West, underwater. The storms are over, but the floods are still coming down.
This is the CBS Evening News. With Dan Rather reporting from CBS News headquarters in New York.
Good evening. Newt Gingrich called a make-or-break meeting with House Republicans this evening. His goal, holding on to the votes to be re-elected Speaker tomorrow before details of his admitted ethics violations and tax troubles are made public. But a ranking Republican, House Banking Chairman Jim Leach of Iowa, today broke ranks. He called Gingrich, and I quote, ethically damaged, and said, quote, the most responsible course of action for the Speaker is to step down. From Capitol Hill, Bob Schieffer has the latest. Bob?
Well, Dan, that meeting that the Republicans called is still going on. It's been going on for over an hour. We're told that Mr. Gingrich is pleading his case to Republican colleagues. Republican leaders have insisted all day that he will be able to round up the votes to be officially elected Speaker tomorrow. For sure, Mr. Gingrich himself was the picture of confidence from the beginning of the day when he started out in Atlanta.
Tomorrow, when I'm sworn in, I will be the first Republican Speaker to be sworn in twice in a row in 68 years.
Reporters also got a happy face.
Good to see you all. Nice well, I'm pretty happy, so you figure what that means.
And hometown supporters who flew ahead to Washington staged a big welcome here, too. But for all the good cheer, it was a nerve-wracking day when Gingrich could take nothing for granted. Republican Banking Committee Chairman Jim Leach broke with the leadership, said winning does not vindicate taking shortcuts with public ethics, and said Gingrich should step down. And influential New Jersey Republican Marge Rockema urged colleagues to elect a temporary speaker until the allegations are resolved.
I think that would be awfully good right now so that we can hear what the Ethics Committee and the special counsel has to say. The jury is still out, and we have to hear their recommendation.
Ethics Committee members who will recommend Gingrich's punishment weren't talking. He's admitted giving the committee false and misleading statements about using tax-exempt charitable foundations for what critics call partisan political purposes. But Gingrich called them technical violations. And as he went behind closed doors to plead his case to Republican colleagues, his argument was he didn't mean to do it.
And there is already an indication just a moment ago that the colleagues may be buying that argument. Congresswoman Susan Molinari of New York, who is one of Gingrich's supporters, just came out of the meeting and said things seem to be going all right. The Republican leaders are predicting that Gingrich will get all but a handful of votes, but at least one Republican says tonight that she will nominate Congressman Leach to be Speaker. So nobody's taking any bets, although Gingrich's people are feeling a little better right now, Dan.
Bob, when you talk to Republicans, are they concerned that however this turns out, Gingrich will have difficulty leading the majority in Congress?
Well, I think that's the big worry that the Republicans have. They won't talk about that publicly, but let's face it. I mean, he's twisted arms, legs, heads. He's really had to make a lot of deals with Republicans over these past 2 weeks. The worry among Republicans now is, will he be so damaged that he won't be able to put pressure on Republican colleagues when it comes time to pass a crucial vote that the Republicans want?
Bob Schieffer, thanks. The defense took a lick today at the O.J. Simpson civil trial. 6 weeks after Simpson said an incriminating photograph of him was a fake, the plaintiffs today produced 30 more photographs, all of them seeming to show the same thing. O.J. Simpson apparently wearing a pair of shoes he said he never owned. Correspondent Bill Whitaker is covering the Simpson civil trial.
It's been O.J. Simpson's Achilles heel ever since this photo first surfaced 6 months after his acquittal. Simpson at a Buffalo Bills football game months before the murders, wearing rare Bruno Magli shoes, the same type an FBI expert says left bloody footprints at the murder scene. In a CBS interview last June, Simpson wouldn't talk about it.
Well, they say they've got a photograph of you wearing Bruno Magli shoes, which you've denied owning. And
read the deposition.
Yeah.
In the deposition, taken before the photo became public, Simpson said emphatically, "I would have never owned those ugly-ass shoes." He said the same in his infomercial.
First of all, I would have never worn those ugly shoes.
When confronted with the photo on the stand, he held the line, saying, "My opinion is that it is a fraud." A defense photo expert backed him up. But dismissing the photo became more difficult today when the plaintiffs presented this new set of pictures taken the same day by a different photographer showing Simpson wearing the same shoes. One even appeared in a Buffalo Bills publication long before the shoes became an issue, and the plaintiffs have 30 of them.
He got on the witness stand and emphatically denied ever having those shoes. Now with the pictures of it, it throws his credibility in doubt, his experts' credibility in doubt, in fact, the whole defense case in doubt.
Even Simpson's photo expert says he might have to reconsider. Simpson takes the stand again later this week. Bill Whitaker, CBS News, Los Angeles.
The U.S. Supreme Court ruled today that judges may impose longer prison sentences on convicted defendants by considering even some criminal charges that ended in acquittal. Voting 7-2, the High Court majority said the Constitution allows judges to do this because acquittal, quote, does not prove the defendant is innocent. It merely proves the existence of a reasonable doubt as to his guilt. 3 ways to change Social Security, but no consensus from a government commission. That story later. Also ahead, a look inside the home where little JonBenet Ramsey lived a glamorous life and died a violent death. And Eye on America, the story of a victim of domestic violence who gets even by putting abusers behind bars. Much of the American West is still underwater tonight, and there's a threat of more flooding as snow melts and fragile levees reach their breaking point. This was the scene today in Northern California near Modesto as farmers evacuated their dairy cows, trying to save the animals' lives and their livelihood. Because of the flooding, states of emergency remain in effect tonight in 30 counties in Washington state and 6 in Oregon. President Clinton has declared disaster areas in parts of 3 other states, including 37 counties in California. Meridian, California is an example of how tough it is in many places, and John Blackstone is there.
Even under clear skies, swollen rivers are straining the fragile levee system in California's Central Valley. At least 3 levees have ruptured in the past 24 hours, bringing new flooding, new evacuations. In many places, the forces of nature have been unstoppable. But in the little town of Meridian, hundreds of people are making a stand against the flood.
If something happens, we'll deal with it. In the meantime, we're going to fight.
Barbara Hankins is one of the town's 600 residents. By now, they'd be flooded out, were it not for the efforts of volunteers, forestry department work crews, even the Air Force.
Flexibility is the key to air power, is what they say, and we're proving it here.
Together, in the last 48 hours, these flood fighters have been building a protective wall around Meridian. They're keeping just one step ahead of the water.
It was going to be a quick, fast thing, and it's kind of turning into a siege.
I'm in awe because I don't want my house to go underwater.
All that work for 600 people here.
I know, that's what I find, just hard to believe, but I guess somebody thinks we're important.
But a broken levee 5 miles away keeps pouring floodwater toward the town. The full force of the flood won't reach here until tomorrow. With clear, dry weather, the question for many California communities now, will the levees hold until all the water goes away? John Blackstone, CBS News, Meridian, California.
Flood damage in just 9 California counties is already estimated at $775 million. Especially hard hit are the farmers. Sandra Hughes continues our coverage near Modesto, California.
It's a race against Mother Nature to save the Quaresma family dairy farm.
Everybody's hearts are pounding, and it's not good.
The convoy of volunteers has evacuated about 2,000 cows from the farm already. The milk cows must be moved to another dairy so they can continue to be milked, or else they could go dry or even worse.
That's the worst thing, you don't want no cows to die, no.
California is the top dairy state in the nation, producing $3 billion worth of milk and cream a year. It's no wonder the farmers are giving the dairies top priority.
While it's too late for those whose homes have been swallowed up by the San Joaquin River, there is still a desperate battle underway here to save the livelihood of this area's dairy farmers.
At the Couchman Dairy, the battle was lost on Friday when a broken levee flooded the farm.
Everything was a total loss. We didn't see how we could get the cows out.
This morning, Dave Couchman was counting the dead and his blessings. He didn't lose his entire herd.
You can't explain the feeling and the sense of frustration and helplessness.
Couchman, like the rest of the dairy industry here, can't assess the total damage yet either, at least until the water goes down. Sandra Hughes, CBS News, Modesto, California.
In the case of the child beauty queen found murdered in her Colorado home, Boulder police detectives have now returned from interviewing about 30 people in Georgia where JonBenet Ramsey has relatives and where she was buried. A spokeswoman says the police have also been in contact with the girl's mother and father and hope to interview them later this week. Diana Olick has our report.
Investigators who have been focusing on the family home of 6-year-old murder victim JonBenet Ramsey have now issued 2 search warrants in Boulder and in Michigan, where the family owns another home. What they gathered is still unknown. Meanwhile, people who didn't even know JonBenet are stopping by the house to lay tributes.
It just really touches your heart. We've got 3 little girls and just couldn't imagine life without them.
In the weeks since the murder, we have learned more about the world in which JonBenet lived. A beautiful child of a wealthy family, driven to succeed in a unique world of lights and pageantry. I wanna be a cowboy sweetheart. JonBenet was polished and precocious, part of a world involving children paraded before their friends and parents. She was named Little Miss Colorado.
Did JonBenet have a bright future?
Oh, definitely.
Talent agent Deanna Hediger met her 2 years ago when JonBenet's mother, a former Miss West Virginia herself, was starting her on the pageant circuit, an expensive and competitive goal.
She seemed quite involved in her daughter doing well.
Was it really important to her?
It seemed like, you know, that she was really into it and really wanted her daughter to do well. Yeah.
The Ramsey family showcased their daughter in everything they did. This tape was commissioned by the Ramseys 2 years ago as a Christmas gift to friends.
Hello, I'm Patsy Ramsey. Daddy's not here, but this is JonBenet. She's 4, Burke is 7, and we'd like to welcome you to our home and wish you a very Merry Christmas. Wait, JonBenet.
The privileged world in which JonBenet lived now extends even to her death. Her parents have hired their own private detectives to investigate the murder in this home. Boulder police are finished here, and some detectives have gone to Michigan. They still have not interviewed the parents. Diana Olick, CBS News, Boulder.
The death of another girl, this one in Washington, D.C., has raised new questions about diplomatic immunity. The girl was killed by a diplomat who was allegedly driving drunk. Anthony Mason has our report.
16-year-old Jovianne Waltrick was out driving with her boyfriend in Washington, D.C. Friday night when she was crushed to death in a hideous car accident, allegedly caused by a speeding, intoxicated diplomat. I can't accept it, says Jovianne's mother. He should be punished and held accountable, but he will not be. The driver, Gueorgui Makharadze, the second-ranking diplomat from the Georgian Republic, has diplomatic immunity and cannot even be prosecuted. The Georgian government has expressed its deep regrets.
And most importantly, extend our most sincere and deepest condolences to the family of the victim.
The case has incited outrage. If Makharadze is formally charged, the State Department can ask the Republic of Georgia to waive his diplomatic immunity, but Georgia can simply decline.
I don't believe there's any instance where a government has lifted that diplomatic immunity. In those cases, it has been the practice of the Clinton administration, in those cases, in most cases, to request the departure of the offending diplomat.
Little consolation for the victim's family, but diplomatic immunity also protects American diplomats abroad. I won't accept it, Jovianne's mother says. He took everything I had in my life. Diplomatic immunity is difficult to understand for a mother looking for justice. Anthony Mason, CBS News, New York.
An editor's note, diplomatic immunity cuts all ways. Case in point, CBS News has been told that 18 months ago, a U.S. diplomat in Moscow struck and killed a Russian woman and child with his car. There was no admission of guilt. The U.S. diplomat left Russia and is now posted elsewhere overseas. The panel charged with finding a whole new way to provide Social Security breaks up 3 ways. That story next. The panel of experts put together to recommend how to change Social Security just couldn't get it together. After years of study, debate, and delay, the panelists split today officially 3 ways on how to change the system, just as our economics correspondent Ray Brady first reported on this broadcast several weeks ago. Tonight, Ray has the follow-up.
These panelists spent more than 3 years on this report, How to Save Social Security. And they not only could not agree on any single solution, they came up with 3 wildly different proposals. One would leave Social Security pretty much the way it is. But under 2 of the proposals, billions of dollars would wind up here in the Wall Street stock market. In one, there'd be mandatory savings accounts for all workers, owned by them, but with the government managing the money. In the second one, there'd be personal retirement accounts. You'd pick and choose your own investments.
These accounts would be run very much like IRAs or 401k plans. We've got millions of Americans today who are investing their own money, managing their own money through these programs.
But they were still picking up the report today when 6 of its 13 authors slammed those proposals, saying Social Security doesn't require such radical moves.
There is simply no compelling argument for abandoning the traditional Social Security program for a system of individual private savings accounts.
The report now must be taken up by President Clinton and the Congress, but the battle lines already are drawn. Wall Street quietly has been pouring millions of dollars into the fight to put Social Security money into the stock market. And the unions are readying a massive campaign to stop it. So the fight to save Social Security may take years. Ray Brady, CBS News, Washington.
Baseball's Dodger dynasty may be coming to an end. Owner Peter O'Malley announced today he intends to sell the Los Angeles Dodgers, the team his family has controlled for 47 years. It was O'Malley's father, Walter, who moved them from Brooklyn to Los Angeles in 1958, leading the way west for baseball's major leagues. Tonight's Eye on America is a hard news report about fighting crime and winning. The government just reported that serious crime is down for the 5th year in a row, and the politicians are taking bows. But credit also goes to the people on the front lines. That is where Jerry Bowen found a courageous woman fighting a crime she knows as both prosecutor and victim.
Chairman, to come to our court now.
Municipal Court, Long Beach, California. The conga line of the accused. Alleged wife beaters to girlfriend bashers. The daily parade that Julie Albin never misses. Julie Albin is the prosecutor.
You willfully and unlawfully used force and violence.
Her specialty is domestic violence and victims. The job, as Julie Albin sees it, is to keep them from becoming victims again.
I'm going to go talk to the victim. I can see her eyes really swollen still and still black and blue. And he got 90 days, everything just like I told you. This is your protective order.
Julie Albin has a special connection with victims of domestic violence here in Long Beach, a special connection because of what happened to her nearly a decade ago when we first met her.
He always said that I was his one and only.
Julie had been living a storybook romance that turned nightmare when her boyfriend Bradley Ackerman, the boy next door in their affluent neighborhood, shot her and then turned the gun on himself. He survived. She was left a paraplegic, bitter and angry.
I really think the only fair thing would be for him to be paralyzed. I think his crime should fit what he's done to me.
Who is this guy?
Anger turned to rage as she heard him, actually heard him back on the tennis court, and heard that he would blame the shooting on drug use and despair over a tennis game that would not carry him on to the pro ranks.
It seemed that in high school I had peaked and had a difficult time playing against the tougher competition in college.
After he had become a national champion, he didn't improve. And you saw people beat him.
The jury was not moved. Ackerman was sentenced to life in prison with the possibility of parole. Julie went on to law school, as she'd always planned. But her direction changed.
Why don't we go where we have a little bit of privacy?
Because she'd been changed.
The reason that I'm in a wheelchair is because my ex-boyfriend tried to kill me. He shot me in the back. Well, it really takes a lot of courage to come in here and to say, I'm not taking it anymore.
And the hardest part of her job, convincing victims to ignore the pleas of the accused and press charges.
Don't look at him. Don't look at him. These women that I meet in that courtroom are the most courageous, strongest people I've ever met. And whatever I give to them, I get 100 times back.
Once upon a time, she would have been just another wealthy supporter at this gala fundraiser for battered women. Now, she's the messenger.
Good evening, everyone. My name is Julie Albin, and I am a victim of domestic violence.
And she has a message for the man who shot her, the ex-boyfriend who was paroled early last year.
I would like him to know that although he tried to end my life, he didn't succeed, and that my life has blossomed and has a real meaning that it might not have had if these events had not occurred.
Tomorrow, Prosecutor Albin will be back in court, and there will be new cases to deal with, new victims with fresh bruises and stories to tell. And if they feel like listening, the prosecutor has a story to tell, too. In Long Beach, California, this is Jerry Bowen for Eye on America.
And that's part of our world tonight. For the CBS Evening News, Dan Rather, reporting from New York. See you tomorrow. Good night.
It's a highly effective treatment that can prevent second heart attacks, even for older patients. So why aren't doctors prescribing it? A full report tomorrow on the CBS Evening News.
CBS News.